Good evening and welcome to the first Game of Thrones Histories and Lore video for Season 1. Although I guess technically it's a series of shorter individual episodes, but I will be watching the full compilation version that's available on YouTube, and I'll also be putting a link to that original video in the description below as well. Now, I don't really know what to expect from this. I mean, I know it's an illustrated background story that's been narrated by the actors, but I don't really have any idea about the structuring or the pacing or information density or anything like that, so I don't really know what kind of reaction video it'll make. Like, I don't know if I'll have any thoughts of my own to add on anything, but I'm gonna go ahead and watch it and record it anyway, and hopefully it'll make it up to YouTube in some form or another anyway. But yeah, I might as well just dive right in and find out what this is about, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit play and check out the video.
In the dawn age of Westeros, before the coming of man, and the raising of castles and cities, there were only the children of the forest. Little is known of them now, but it is said they were small in stature, dark and beautiful, and no taller than children when grown to manhood.
Children of the forest? That's something new, isn't it? I don't think we've heard about that so far.
They hunted with weirwood bows and armed themselves with blades of obsidian. Their wise men were called green seers and were possessed of powerful magic. According to legend, it was they who carved faces in the great white trunks of the majestic weirwoods.
Oh, really?
Their deep-cut eyes were red with sap and ever watchful.
So they carved every face that's on every tree.
They cut down the children's forests and weirwoods. A terrible war raged between the children and the first men that lasted for centuries.
That's not very
At long
nice.
last, the two races sought an end to the years of horror and bloodshed. The first men would be granted dominion over the coastlands, the mountains, the high plains and the bogs, but the deep forest would forever belong to the children, and no weirwood tree would ever again fall to man's axe.
Okay, I guess that didn't last so well, because I thought they said in the show that they've been cutting most of them down or something.
They attacked with fire and weapons of steel, slaughtering the children of the forest wherever they could find them, burning up their weirwood groves, hacking away at the faces of the old gods, and spreading their own religion through the land. Centuries of war followed, and the Andals conquered every kingdom in Westeros, save one. The kings of winter were able to withstand the Andal invasion, and descendants of the first men dwell there to this day, and continue to worship the old gods.
Oh, so that's why they're still doing the tree
thing. Those who survived the slaughter were said to have fled far north and have not been seen again. Most assume they're long dead, and some don't believe they ever existed. They live on only through song and legend, and in the faces of the
okay, I wonder if we're gonna see them later on in the show. Now I'm really curious about who they are. Oh shit, that was short. Another one by Bran.
When Aegon the Conqueror invaded Westeros, he had 7 kingdoms to contend with.
He sounds really young too. I wonder if they recorded these like after each season was done with.
One hero of this fabled age was Bran the Builder. Bran raised the wall and built the stronghold.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him.
Establishing House Stark and reigning as the first.
I think so. Maybe I'm confusing, but I thought they might have mentioned him in the show.
Tell of the Grey King in the Iron Islands. House Casterly ruled the gold-rich Westerlands.
Oh, Casterly Rock.
Casterly Rock.
Where the Lannisters are from now, or at least they rule out of there or something?
The House of Lannister is said to have descended from him.
Ah, okay.
The verdant and fertile lands of the Reach were first ruled by House Gardener. According to ballads of the age, a warrior named Durin fell in love with Elenai, whose father was god of the sea and mother was goddess of the wind.
There's those boobies again.
Her parents called upon the winds and waters, destroying Daren's Bayside keep and wiping out his wedding guests. Daren declared war on the gods and rebuilt his keep, which was also destroyed. 4 more castles he raised, each stronger than the last. All fell to the power of the gods.
Damn, he's not having too much luck with his little castles.
Durin became known as Durin Godsgrief and reigned as the first Storm King. There are countless other tales from the Age of Heroes, too many to count.
Is this connected to... Didn't Daenerys call herself Stormborn? I wonder if there's a connection to that.
Every one of the 7 kingdoms is defined by them.
Oh, and another one. Viserys Targaryen. Are we going to have to listen to that jerk?
East of Westeros lies the smoking sea.
Of course we are.
Where no ship dares sail. It was there, thousands of years ago, that a cataclysmic event occurred, destroying one of the great civilizations in history.
The Targaryens?
The precise details of their origins are lost to us, But it is said the Valyrians were once a modest community of shepherds.
Oh, maybe it's the Valyrians. I guess this is further back in time than even the Targaryens, maybe.
In a volcanic area known as the 14 Fires, they made a shattering discovery. Dragons.
Oh!
They were monstrous, scaled creatures with massive wings, sharp claws, and fiery breath.
Yeah.
They were also said to have a deep-rooted connection to magic. Harnessing their immense power, they established a city of wonder, unlike any before or since.
So that's what Valyrian steel comes from anyway.
Metallurgy.
Ah, metallurgy, okay, yeah.
Weapons of spell-forged steel. At the time, the Giscari Empire dominated much of the great eastern continent.
It's kind of weird little gargoyles there, or whatever they are.
The Giscari legions attacked the Valyrians 5 times, but could never defeat them. Finally, the Valyrians marched on their capital, Old Gis, and obliterated it, turning its streets and buildings to ash with dragon flame. The Valyrians' reach extended far and wide, covering most of the continent. Great cities were built and roadways paved, all of which led back to Valyria.
Kind of reminds me of the Roman Empire almost.
An event that became known only as the Doom laid waste to the Valyrians, their capital city, and its surrounding lands.
Really?
The peninsula itself was shattered,
What caused
becoming
that?
what is now the Smoking Sea. What caused this cataclysm?
Yeah,
No one knows.
I'm
for
wondering.
certain.
Oh, okay.
Some
We don't
say
get
it
to
was
find
a
out.
volcanic eruption. Others say the Valyrians' own sorcery got the better of them, with the exception of a small rocky island in the narrow sea, Dragonstone. For it was there that the Targaryens, the last of old Valyria, dwelled.
Oh,
They would lie
right.
in wait for another 100 years before unleashing the
So
fury
that's
of the
how they're
dragon on
connected
another
into the whole
continent,
thing.
Westeros.
Oh, Commander Mormont, Night's Watch. This I'm really curious about.
And now my watch begins. Legend tells of a winter that lasted a generation. With their armies of the dead, they waged war against the living, laying waste to villages and holdfasts, leaving terror and destruction in their wake.
That was very dramatic.
After years, an alliance of the first men and the children of the forest managed to drive the walkers and their minions
Oh, so that was around that same
into
time,
frigid
I'm
northern
guessing.
wastelands from whence they came. To prevent another invasion, the first men erected the wall,
Yeah, makes sense.
a massive fortification, and thus the Night's Watch was born. It is a life of hardship and great sacrifice. The Night's Watch is divided into 3 vital branches.
Yeah, okay, we kind of know this though.
The Night's Watch is a diverse group. Proud volunteers from noble houses stand side by side with petty thieves conscripted from dungeons.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of the French Foreign Legion, actually. Wonder if it might have been inspired by that.
A man gets what he earns on the wall.
Another history of the Night's Watch by Lewin.
Joining the Night's Watch, or taking the Black, is a singular honour for any northerner. For it was in the north, some 8,000 years ago, that the first man drove back the White Walkers, erected the wall, and established the sworn brotherhood.
Oh, so they're all different people are telling the same story, basically, from their perspective, I'm guessing. That's really cool.
While House Stark and other houses in the northern regions continue to recognise its vital importance to the safety and stability of the realm, this view is not shared by the powerful houses of the southern kingdoms.
No, I kind of noticed.
Of the 19 castles along the wall, only 3 are functional. The Shadow Tower, Castle Black, and Eastwatch by the Sea.
I thought it was just Castle Black, so there's been a whole heck of a lot of castles.
There are barely enough resources to maintain it.
Well, that's a shame. But still, very cool that it's... I didn't realize it was that vast, sort of, with... I guess it makes sense. They have to probably... Like, they can't just have all the supplies and people in one place, of course.
The decline of this once fabled order is troubling, as the danger it guards against is all too real. Barbarian tribes that dwell beyond the wall, known as wildlings, have been a menace to the north and its people for generations. At certain points in history, the disparate wildling tribes have united behind a single leader, a king beyond the wall.
Oh, the Mance Raider, I think it was called?
These so-called kings were soundly defeated.
Another Night's Watch, By Tywin Lannister.
In the wintry north, an army of demons emerged from beneath the icy ground and spread darkness and despair across the land.
I wonder what his perspective is going to be.
Until the fearless warriors of the first Night's Watch drove them back into the wintry mountains, these stalwart brothers in black continue to protect us even to this day from the evils that lurk in the shadows.
Is he being sarcastic?
An absurd lie.
I
A fairy
figured.
tale spun by many a wet nurse in the north. The wall has become a glorified penal colony, full of outcasts, criminals, and assorted ne'er-do-wells. A typical man of the Night's Watch most likely started out a lowly beggar, or a rapist, or a village idiot. As for the few high-born watchmen, they either fought on the losing side of a war, or were disowned by their parents for one reason or another. And any talk of White Walkers returning with their armies of the dead, and their giant spiders, and their snarks is just that.
What the hell is snarks? I keep hearing that. The old... Oh, Bran and Catelyn
In the Seven
Tully.
Kingdoms of Westeros, the dominant religion is the faith of the Seven.
But there are some who still keep to the old way. In ancient times, the children of the forest carved faces in the trunks of the weirwood trees, which became sacred symbols of their faith.
So that's the same faces that have been there the whole time. Don't they need to be like recarved or anything? Or do the trees just kind of stay like that?
The Andals sailed across the sea on ships armed with weapons of steel. Some warriors carved a seven-pointed star into their skin as a symbol of their new faith.
The invaders destroyed most
dedicated.
of the weirwoods in the southern lands. In time, the faith of the Seven spread like wildfire throughout the land. The Seven is a single deity
does
with seven
seem
aspects,
to have, yeah.
each symbolizing a different area of life, though most people refer to the Seven as separate gods.
Worshippers gather in temples of the faith called septs. The seat of the
Oh, so the
faith is
Sept
great
of Baelor.
Sept of Baelor,
Yeah.
which is located in the capital city of King's Landing.
Ah, they're so short, these. I almost want to know more about them.
The ascension of
Still
Aegon
very
Targaryen
interesting.
was confirmed. Kings Loren Lannister of the Rock and Mern Gardner of the Reach stood against Aegon's invasion.
I'm not going to be able to remember all of these names, that's for sure.
When Aegon unleashed all three of his dragons, 4,000 souls were horrendously burned alive.
Oh, he had 3 dragons too, huh?
King Loren surrendered. The Starks
That's
of
kind of hard to fight
had
dragons,
no
I'd
intention
imagine.
of submitting to Targaryen
Especially
rule.
with those weapons they had.
They had reigned as kings in the north since the days of the First Men and were determined to resist the Targaryen invaders. But when Torrhen saw the size of Aegon's now mighty host, he knew he couldn't subject his followers to the horror of another field of fire. He bent the knee and swore fealty to Aegon. He was ever after known as the king who knelt.
Ouch. Oh, by Viserys.
The days of the Andals were numbered.
Yeah.
One by one, their
Guessing this is
so-called
going to be a
kings
slightly
were
different
bending the
take
knee
on it.
or facing the wrath of Aegon Targaryen. Aegon of Old Valyria. Aegon who was blood of the dragon. King Loren Lannister of the Rock and King Mern Gardner of the Reach foolishly thought their combined armies could beat back the Targaryen host. The two kings commanded a massive force of nearly 60,000, and it appeared the day was theirs.
Hearing this guy just makes me want to slap him all over again. He's just got such an annoying way to talk.
Aegon's conquest was assured. In a short time, the so-called Seven Kingdoms were melted down in the heat of the dragon's flame and transformed into a single realm.
Order of Maesters. This should be interesting. I'm actually pretty curious about them.
At the mouth of the river Honeywine lies the great stone city of Old Town. Maesters play an integral role in Westerosi society, serving as scholars, healers, and advisors to the nobility of the Seven Kingdoms, and are sworn to occupy a neutral position when it comes to power and politics.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if all of them stick to that, though.
A Maester's allegiance is to the realm, not to any one family. His badge of office is a great chain, forged from links of different metals, which he wears around his neck.
Ah, there we go.
It is a reminder of his role as a servant of the realm, and is never to be removed.
Oh, so there's a pretty big process involved with that. It's also very interesting that they serve the realm instead of like a family, that they just kind of are loyal to sort of the people, I guess.
Ravenry is an especially important skill for a maester, as it is he who breeds, trains, and maintains carrier ravens for the delivering of messages throughout
Oh,
the
I didn't
land.
know that either.
There are some maesters who have earned a link forged of Valyrian steel. This signifies knowledge of the higher mysteries. Only one maester in 100 possesses such a link, as this field of study is frowned upon by many in the Order.
Yeah, that guy looks pretty troubled by it too.
Service as a maester is a noble calling. It is little wonder there are some who refer to the Order as the Knights of the Mind.
Huh. Oh, Mad King Aerys. This I'm also very curious about.
As word of King Aerys' erratic and troubling behavior spread throughout the Seven Kingdoms, Lord Rickard Stark continued to serve his king faithfully as Warden of the North.
I think I like Lewin's storytelling the best so far.
Centuries of peace between the North and the Iron Throne ended the day Rhaegar Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, abducted Lyanna. Brandon Stark rode to King's Landing, demanding the release of his sister and the death of Rhaegar. Aerys arrested him for treason, and called his father to come to the capital to ransom him. Lord Rickard demanded a trial by combat. Aerys declared fire the champion of House Targaryen, and had Lord Rickard suspended from the rafters of the throne room while pyromancers lit a blaze beneath him.
That's not very nice.
Brandon was brought into the throne room. A leather cord attached to a strangulation device was wrapped around his neck.
What the hell?
Aerys told Brandon his father was a dead man, but there was a chance to save him. A longsword was placed on the floor just out of Brandon's reach, and the more he struggled to reach it, the more the cord tightened around his throat. The Mad King was reported to have laughed hysterically as these two noble men were tortured and brutally killed before him. Aerys called for the head of Rickard's younger son, Eddard Stark, and Lyanna's betrothed, Robert Baratheon. He sent word to Lord John Arryn, who had fostered both young men.
Well, no wonder they rebelled then.
Instead, Lord Arryn joined houses Stark and Baratheon in rebellion.
Yeah, Robert's rebellion.
Vowed to kill Rhaegar Targaryen and get his beloved Lyanna back.
Oh, by Robert Baratheon. Okay.
Aerys Targaryen was the last of his name to sit on the Iron Throne.
That's kind of nice to hear his voice again. I've kind of missed him, actually.
His was a reign of instability and terror. There may have been years of peace and prosperity during Aerys's reign, but it was Tywin who was really running the country.
Also, he's been
Aerys
hand before.
spiraled further and further into insanity. The dragon spawn were famous for losing their minds.
Okay.
It was the price they paid for centuries of keeping the bloodlines pure.
Yeah.
And Aerys
Inbreeding.
more than happily continued
That rarely
the
works out too well.
sister-fucking tradition of his forefathers. He cut himself so often on his Iron Throne, many referred to him as King Scab, though never to his face.
Okay.
It was rumored he had developed an obsession with wildfire, and was known to inflict horrific punishments on those he considered enemies, including
Wildfire.
burning them alive. Then the Targaryens went too far. The Crown Prince, Rhaegar, abducted Lyanna Stark. She was my betrothed. She was my beloved. Lyanna's eldest brother was outraged. Aerys had him executed. His father, Rickard Stark, as well. Once our rebellion began, the Mad King's days were numbered.
Another mad... Oh, by Tywin. I wonder what his take on that's going to be.
As Aerys Targaryen's behavior grew more and more erratic, the task of ruling the Seven Kingdoms fell to me. Aerys grew increasingly hostile, jealous of the success many credited to me.
Uh-huh.
My power and influence unnerved him. The captain of my personal guard, Sir Elyn Payne, was once overheard making offhand comments regarding who was the true ruler of Westeros. When the king was given this information, he had Elyn Payne's tongue ripped out with hot pincers.
Oh, so that's why.
Aerys appointed Jaime, my son, to the king's guard. The king's guard may be an honor for lesser families than ours, but it is a lifetime appointment that forces him to renounce all family holdings.
Oh. But did he have to accept, though, really? I guess if the king tells you to, maybe you, especially that king, probably don't have much choice.
I had grown tired of the king's constant provocation. I resigned my post as Aerys' hand and returned to Casterly Rock. I've heard it said he became obsessed with wildfire, a substance which, once lit, cannot be extinguished.
Oh, so it's almost like napalm or white phosphorus or something. Like you just get burned with it and you just can't put it out? That sounds pretty unpleasant. This guy again.
The Targaryen dynasty united the Seven Kingdoms and lasted nearly 3 centuries.
Oh.
It was a dynasty
That's a little bit
forged
of a
in
different
fire,
style.
sealed in blood. The Targaryens are blood of the dragon.
It's so annoying the way he says that.
When the cataclysmic doom laid waste to Valyria and its people, the Targaryens survived. Instead of attempting to reclaim the eastern lands of his ancestors, Aegon sailed west for the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh, we're getting a little more animated now too.
To keep the bloodlines pure, Aegon continued the custom of his Valyrian ancestors and took both of his sisters to wife.
Yeah, of course he did.
They came ashore on the eastern coast of Westeros. Their words, fire and blood. The capital city of King's Landing was built on the eastern coast, where Aegon and his sisters first came ashore.
Oh, so that's why it's called King's Landing. I always thought that was a little bit of a weird name, but okay, that makes sense.
My father was betrayed and slaughtered by Ser Jaime Lannister, a member of his own Kingsguard. His son and heir, my brother Rhaegar, perished on the field of battle at the hands of Robert Baratheon, who claimed the Iron Throne for himself. Nice helmet. Dreaming of a day when we will cross the narrow sea and take back my father's throne.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well for you. Oh, this should be interesting too.
The crimes of House Targaryen were too heinous to go unanswered. I called the banners of Storm's End and rode out in force against the Mad King and his minions. Gods, those were some battles. Our first victory occurred at Summerhall, where I faced off against an army of dragon loyalists and won 3 battles in a single day. 3 in one day. As the Targaryens searched from house to house for me, the combined forces of Ned Stark and the Tullys swept into the city. It's now known as the Battle of the Bells.
Oh, I think I heard that somewhere. Sounds familiar.
As for the Mad King, he must have been pissing himself.
I really miss Robert. Like, I really wish they would have kept him in the show a little bit longer.
I sent Ned Stark to the capital to face the Mad King and make him pay for his crimes.
Ah, I see. And now we get Viserys' take on that.
The Targaryens, blood of the dragon and the last of old Valyria, were loved by their subjects and admired far and wide as the greatest dynasty in the history of the Western world.
Yeah, or so you'd like to think.
But the peace and prosperity of nearly 3 centuries of Targaryen rule was shattered. House Baratheon owed its very existence to the Targaryens. Was it not Aegon the Dragon himself who elevated the bastard Orys Baratheon in the War of Conquest? They say the Crown Prince stole the usurper's lady love. They say my father, King Aerys, murdered Rickard Stark and his son without just cause. Whether these charges are true or not, it doesn't matter. The dragon answers to no one. Aerys' good name has been besmirched in the years since the rebellion. But as my father, my king, Aerys Targaryen, prepared to defend his throne to the bitter end, little did he know of the horrors and betrayals that awaited him and our family.
House Baratheon.
Ours is the Fury. The seat of House Baratheon is Storm's End, a legendary keep raised in the Age of Heroes. After Aegon's conquest of the Seven Kingdoms, the Baratheons remained loyal enough to the crown while Targaryen kings came and went. I sit on the Iron Throne. I rule the Seven Kingdoms from the Red Keep.
Not if the pigs have anything to say about it. Ooh, another one by Lewin.
Robert Baratheon's victory at the Trident was a turning point in the war for the Iron Throne. It was up to Eddard Stark to make for the capital and force the Mad King to give up the throne. To find that Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, had already sacked the city in Robert's Mane.
In his name?
As Lannister had remained neutral up to this point, ignoring requests for help from both the Crown and the rebels.
But
now that Robert's eventual victory was assured, it seemed...
Oh, of course he needs to side with the victor, yeah.
Lord Eddard was horrified by what he saw when he entered the city. Homes looted and burned.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Scores of innocent citizens killed. Elia, Martell of Dawn, who was the wife of Prince Rhaegar, had been raped and murdered by Ser Krigor Clegane on Lord Tywin's orders.
The mountain?
Ser
on
Krigor
his orders
had
too.
Also butchered Rhaegar's young children. Lord Eddard demanded the Lannisters answer for their heinous crimes. Robert refused. Whatever words passed between the two old friends are known only to them. Later, when Robert was crowned, he appointed Jon Arryn as Hand of the King. Lord Arryn's first order of business was to broker a truce with the Martells of Dawn, who were outraged by the brutal murder of Princess Elia and her children.
Yeah, it also makes a little more sense why Eddard was so fast to sentence the Mountain to death too, when he was Hand there at the end, like after seeing what he'd done here. Kind of a little more understandable why he'd be so upset with him.
He returned to his stronghold of Winterfell, forever haunted by his sister's death and the shameful way that Robert had secured his throne.
Yeah, no, that kind of explains a lot. Oh, by Robert Baratheon too, okay.
For our rebellion to succeed, King's Landing had to be taken forcefully. What Tywin Lannister's forces did was unfortunate, but it was necessary to secure the Iron Throne. Had I been able to ride, perhaps I could have reached King's Landing sooner and prevented some of the violence that occurred when the Lannisters entered the city. Still, what Lord Tywin did was for the greater good.
The greater good. Reminds me of the Hot Fuzz.
Ned with his damn northern honor. He and I had our first major fight over the deaths of the Targaryen children. Ned called it murder. Murder? It was war.
Still murder, though.
I wouldn't and still won't blame Tywin. As for the Mad King's surviving heirs, if they ever set foot in Westeros again, they will face the King's justice.
Yeah. Oh, Tywin, too.
Rhaegar Targaryen lay dead on the banks of the Trident, his royal army shattered and in retreat. It was time for House Lannister to do what it could to ensure a return of peace and prosperity to the land. King Aerys had been sending ravens for months, begging for my support to end the uprising. In a way, his pleas had been answered.
I guess that's one way to look at it.
Aerys opened the city gates and welcomed my men.
Oh, shit, he actually thought he was there to help.
Aerys' remaining bannermen and remove the remnants of the royal family as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Oh, that was really shitty if that's how it went down.
Years of further war and a fragmented 7 kingdoms. Our means were bloody, but the results speak for themselves.
Clearly.
Aerys had kept Jaime close during the rebellion, thinking himself clever in keeping my son as a hostage, should I decide to pledge support to the rebel
fingernails.
cause. This proved to be his greatest mistake. Jaime did his duty as a Lannister and drove his sword into the Mad King's back.
Oh, Visser is going to comment on this too.
The Battle of the Trident may have been an important victory for the usurper.
Okay.
But it was the treachery and barbarism of Tywin Lannister that sealed the fate of the Targaryen dynasty. What a glorious sight it must have been when a force of 10,000 Lannister men showed up at the gate of the capital with Lord Tywin at their head, pledging support to his beleaguered king.
Oh, so they really out and out pretended to be there to help.
Lannister and his men proceeded to plunder and destroy the city that he had called home.
Well, I guess that is entirely in line with Tywin's character.
Jaime Lannister, son of Lord Tywin, proved every bit as treacherous. He killed my father, the king, at the foot of the Iron Throne. As for Rhaegar's widow, Elia, she was forced to watch as Lannister thugs dashed her baby son's head against a wall before being raped and murdered herself. I had been spirited away to Dragonstone with my mother as a raging summer storm battered the island fortress and destroyed the Targaryen fleet as it lay at anchor. My sister, Daenerys, was born. My mother, the queen, died giving birth.
Oh, that's why she's called Stormborn, I guess, because she was born during a major storm?
I will sail west as Aegon the Dragon did centuries before. I will take back my father's throne with blood and fire.
Why are you talking like that?
I will punish the treacherous dogs who sought to destroy my family, and the people shall rejoice.
Okay. House Aaron. Do we really care about them? I'm not sure I do, but okay.
The snow-capped mountains of the moon, standing high above the rich lands of the Vale, stands the Eyrie.
Yeah, they do have a pretty cool fortress anyway.
It is the stronghold of House Aaron, one of the oldest noble families in Westeros.
Oh, really?
Their sigil, a soaring falcon over a crescent moon. The Aarons are direct descendants of the Andal invaders. Sir Artus Aaron, known as the Winged Knight, soared through the sky atop a giant falcon, landing on the peak of the highest mountain where he defeated the Griffin King in battle. It was the
Nice
Andal's
cape.
first great victory over the First Men. Over the centuries, House Aaron remained loyal to the Targaryen dynasty, until Lord Jon Arryn joined with Houses Baratheon and Stark in rebellion against Mad King Aerys. Upon winning the Iron Throne, Robert named Lord Jon Hand of the King, a position he held until his mysterious death.
Oh wow, that was short. Okay. House Lannister.
On the far western coast of the continent, high atop a rocky promontory overlooking the Sunset Sea, sits Casterly Rock, ancestral seat of House Lannister. There are a number of gold and silver mines in the Westerlands, making it the richest region in all of Westeros.
Oh, so that's where they get a lot of their fortune from.
We Lannisters claim our descent from the Andal invaders, and through the female bloodline,
Oh,
Lan
okay,
the
them
Clever.
too.
The last King of the Rock, King Lorin Lannister, joined forces with King Mern Gardner, the King of the Reach. Together, with 60,000 men, they met the Targaryen host in open battle.
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten this story a few times now.
Today, the Golden Lion of Lannister is rightly admired and feared throughout the Seven Kingdoms. Our words are, hear me roar. But there are
A little
other words
cheesy,
that
but
should
okay.
be remembered when crossing a lion of Casterly Rock. A Lannister always pays his debts.
Yeah, that's kind of a better saying, to be honest. Oh, House Stark by
The
Bran
Starks
and
of
Robb.
Winterfell trace their descent to the first men in the Age of Heroes. The family's founder was Brandon the Builder, who, in the aftermath of the Long Night, helped establish the Night's Watch.
The Starks reigned as kings for thousands of years, even withstanding the invasion of the Andals. As the southern kingdoms fell and the children of the forest were driven away, the north stood strong.
The Starks take great pride in their history and traditions. It is one of the few noble houses that still keeps the old gods.
Yeah, they do seem pretty alone in that, I've noticed.
Its ancestral sword, Ice, was forged in ancient Valyria and has been passed down through the generations.
Oh, Eddard's sword, that he also lost his own head to.
Much like their sigil, the Grey Direwolf, House Stark is the stuff of legend in the north and throughout the Seven Kingdoms. And their family words, winter is coming,
Serve as a reminder of their beginnings in the wake of the Long Night, and a grim portent of things to come.
Oh, was that it? Okay, well that ended a little bit abruptly, but that was super interesting and it certainly broadened my understanding of not just this world, but also a lot of the events during the first season of the show and also that were referenced in the first season of the show. And if I would have watched this show all by myself, I would have most likely missed out on this entirely, so thank you too to everybody in the comments who recommended that I watch this. I'm very happy that I actually did. And I know I might have talked over a few lines here and there as well, but don't worry about that too much, because keep in mind I am also the one who's editing these videos, and when I go through the material afterwards, I always get a very thorough second viewing of everything I watch. And in fact, I'm actually really looking forward to editing this one just so I can go through the material one more time and maybe hopefully pick up on a few more details that I might have missed the first time around, because this sure was a lot to take in. But anyway, I don't really think I have all too much to add to this, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and round it off here and jump right into editing. So as usual, thank you so very much for watching this video. Hope to see you in the next one too. Bye bye.